Chapter 1175. Ideas are very important. Making things difficult for Ammon. Pallas Zoros chuckled. What benefits can there be? Otherwise, forget it. Leonard was momentarily at a loss for words. After a few seconds, he said, At least it can make you feel good. Pallas chuckled. I will feel better if you don't bring this topic up. Without waiting for Leonard to respond, this sequence one angel from the Marauder Pathway side with his slightly aged voice. Doesn't your former colleague have a deceit charm? Perhaps he can use this to come up with a solution. After getting rid of the Ammon avatars in Backland, Pallas had given the godhood symbols and magic labels needed to make 4 charms: deceit, parasite, deprivation, and aging to Leonard. Leonard had passed on this knowledge to Klein, and the latter had used the knowledge and the worms of time to create 1 deceit, parasite, and deprivation bullet each. Later on, he had used them to deal with Kona's Kilgore, but Leonard wasn't aware of this. Leonard whispered thoughtfully, Old man, are you saying that by using the deceit charm, you can mislead Ammon and cause him to misidentify the location, preventing him from influencing Klein's escape? In his mind, Pallas Zoros snapped back. Do you think it's possible to use a deceit charm in front of a Marauder Pathway's King of Angels? It's impossible. Leonard laughed dryly and pressed in a thick-skinned manner. What do you mean then? Pallas Zoros' voice suddenly sounded more spirited. Deceive the rule that one can only return to where one's body is. Deceive the rule, that works too, Leonard asked in shock. Pallas gave a self-deprecating laugh and sighed. Compared to deceiving Ammon, deceiving a rule is much easier. After all, underneath this world is madness and chaos. This sentence made Leonard speechless for a moment. On the one hand, he wasn't experienced enough. He didn't know that orders and laws could be deceived, and on the other hand, he never expected that, in Old Man's heart, Ammon was even more terrifying than the laws of nature and the order of the world. After nearly 10 seconds, he spoke again. With this method, how high is the possibility of success? It's very, very low. Pallas said with a sneer. However, the probability of deceiving the order of the world like this with a deceit charm made from a worm of time from Ammon's avatar is very, very low. Therefore, my suggestion is still to get him to make a request to the fool for help. Don't waste any more time. When fighting Ammon, the longer the delay, the more dangerous it will be. Leonard pondered for a moment before nodding in agreement. I understand. I'll also advise him to do so. Of course, he wouldn't forget mentioning the highly improbable method that Old Man had suggested. It's good that you understand. Seriously, disturbing an old man's reading. As Pallas mumbled, his voice gradually lowered and disappeared from Leonard's mind. In 7 Pinster Street, the newspaper that was placed on the coffee table suddenly flew up and automatically spread open over the sofa. Using a deceit charm to deceive the requirement that I can only resurrect where my original body is. Above the gray fog in the ancient palace, Klein reconstructed Pallas Zoros' suggestion in his own words. As soon as he finished speaking, he recalled the animal hide lantern that kept burning. Ammon had deceived the laws of nature, allowing the candle to remain in a magical state and continue burning for a week without needing any fuel. His eyes lit up as he whispered, This line of thought is something only an angel from the Marauder Pathway can think of immediately. It might not be impossible. Like Pallas, he did feel that, compared to dealing with Ammon, it was much easier to deal with the laws of nature. After seeing Hope, he immediately analyzed the possible outcome. Although I've already used the deceit bullet, I can summon it from the historical void. After all, before the effects end, I'll definitely reform my body and successfully resurrect. The laws of nature are truly pitiful. Not only will they be deceived, even the item used to deceive it is fake. The only problem is that the bullet might not be able to deceive the mysticism law. It was already a little difficult to deal with Kona's Kilgore back then. Amidst his thoughts, he slowly surveyed the area and gradually gained inspiration. That was to use Sephra Castle. After gaining initial control of Sephra Castle, he could already mobilize the power of a sequence 2 angel here. And many of the things he had come into contact with previously had explained that the authority of Sephra Castle had a high probability of spanning over the 3 pathways of Seer, Apprentice, and Marauder. It could generate a convergence effect on the corresponding Beyonders, and it had clearly attracted the attention of Ammon. That was to say, Klein suspected that Sephra Castle had the power of these three pathways at the same time. However, as a seer, most of the power he could stir was concentrated in this domain. With the help of the medium known as the Deceit Bullet, I might be able to stir the other powers of Sephra Castle. Since I'm already capable of using some miracles in the seer domain, having power from the Marauder pathway at the angel level is a highly reasonable deduction. The only problem is that there must be a medium of a sufficient level. This way, I don't have to worry about not being able to deceive that rule. As his thoughts brightened up, he seriously began to formulate a plan. He used the mysticism laws as his target and attempted to formulate a scam. In order to reduce the difficulty, it's best to have additional preparations. I can't deceive something out of nothing, at least unless I'm Ammon's true body. Yes, I'll bestow a tube of my blood to Little Sun. I'll create a fake respawn point that exceeds the range. And then, using the Deceit Bullet as a trigger, stir the corresponding angel-level powers contained within Sephra Castle, misdirecting that rule and making it view the fake respawn point as the real one, while the real one becomes the fake one. He outlined the details bit by bit, and when his thoughts finally took form, Klein immediately used the mysticism connection between himself and the spot he died to observe the actual situation with his true vision. He saw that the grayish-yellow fog had thinned a lot, and the deep ravine that hid Chernobyl was no different from before. It was unknown where Ammon, who was wearing a pointed hat and a monocle, had stolen a rock from and had placed it on the spot where Klein had passed away. He sat on it and patiently played with a human-skinned glove. He occasionally bent the human-skinned glove's finger and stretched it at other times, as if he could pass 100 years doing that. About a kilometer away, in a certain spot in the grayish-yellow fog, 3 Ammons in black classical mage robes crouched around a rock as they seriously played poker cards that they had stolen from somewhere. From time to time, they would nudge their monocle. Elsewhere in this extensive moor, Ammon would be either alone or in groups, strolling leisurely, writing in thought, or discussing all sorts of questions with one another. In the dark and dangerous forsaken land of the gods, it was such a harmonious scene. It would have been better if the young men weren't all the same, wearing classic black robes, pointed hats and monocles, with similar black hair, black eyes, broad foreheads, and thin faces. Just as Klein was about to make a further observation, the Ammon sitting on the rock suddenly raised his head. He nudged his crystal-carved monocle and looked at him. Across the moor, all of the Ammons looked up at the highest point of the fog of history. Klein immediately retracted his gaze and cut off the connection. In the City of Silver, Derek Berg arrived at the top of the spire and met Chief Colin Iliad. "Your Excellency, I've already received the promise of blessings," Derek said frankly and directly. With white hair and an old scar on his face, Colin Iliad was visibly relieved. He slowly nodded and said, "That's good, that's good." He had repeated the sentence in a rare instance. As an excellent demon hunter and the City of Silver's chief, he had always been patient, never taking unnecessary risks. Therefore, with the sudden lack of a response from the fool, he didn't immediately turn to the true creator, and he decided to wait patiently for another month. For the City of Silver, which had been waiting in the Dark Ages for more than 2,000 years, a month was something that could be accepted. Without waiting for Derek to reply, Demon Hunter Colin left the window and calmly said, "Head back first. I'm going to start preparing for the advancement ritual." Derek glanced at the chief and said sincerely, "You'll definitely succeed." He didn't stay any longer. He immediately left the spire and returned home. After setting up the ritual again and placing the 6 powerful corpses that he had hunted to the correct position, Colin Iliad began to concoct the potion. After all of this was done, the City of Silver chief closed his eyes and lowered his head, chanting in Jotun, "The fool that doesn't belong to this era, the mysterious ruler above the gray fog, the king of yellow and black who wields good luck." Above the gray fog, Klein saw ripples of light emanate as he heard a slightly illusory prayer. He immediately summoned a paper figurine and combined the power of Sephra Castle with it. He threw it into the prayer circle, and conveniently marked the city of Silver's chief. At the same time, with the help of this prayer circle, he observed the situation of the entire spire and the city of Silver. He confirmed that there was no sign of Ammon's parasitic existence near the chief or little son. I have to seize this opportunity. Klein immediately conjured the world Jamin Sparrow and made him pose as he prayed. At this moment, Colin Iliad saw the light. In the holy light, a holy angel with 12 pairs of illusory wings suddenly descended. As clean, white feathers fluttered down, the demon hunter was embraced by these wings of light. This was a blessing from Mr. Fool.